Do you want to know why more parents are ditching the gentle parenting approach? It is happening. It's proving to be something that parents are becoming disillusioned with. Let's talk in this video about why. What is it that drew people into the approach? What is it that is turning them away from the approach? What can we learn from that? And what should we do in our families with our parenting so that we can actually get the results we're looking for? In 2007, Sarah Ockwell Smith coined the phrase gentle parenting. And who knows, maybe she didn't even come up with it, but she kind of popularized it. Then in 2015, she wrote a book with the same title, Gentle Parenting. This became quite a phenomenon. She is out of the United Kingdom, and people in Britain and all over the world started talking about this concept of gentle parenting, which was a new approach to parenting online. Social media portrayed gentle parenting in a way that parents were drawn into. Like, oh, these parents who've had emotions, who maybe felt like their parents did not understand their emotions or maybe even care very much about their feelings or their emotions when they were little, finally had this approach which really leaned into the coddling that they had experienced. So we have millennial parents mostly who leaned into this idea that we need to validate people's feelings, we need to understand them, discuss them, let people know they're heard and understood. And so they really liked that, and they started becoming little mini therapists in their home, asking why about everything. In fact, to the point that the children didn't even always know the answers. I remember talking to one parent about the behavior that she was concerned about with her son. And she said, I know that he must be disappointed in me because of this or because of this. And when he was young, this happened. So it's probably my fault. And he just needs to, be able to express those feelings. And here she is trying to get him to express all these feelings. And he's like, Mom, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, you haven't been a bad mom. But she had mom guilt, and she wanted him to articulate it so that she could have, like, I guess, resolve this for herself and for him or whatever, because she was sure it had to be her fault. She knew she wasn't perfect enough, and she needed to hear more of his feelings. But what happened with this approach was just distance. He felt like he didn't want to tell her anything because he didn't want to tear her down, and he didn't know what answers she was looking for. It's incredibly overwhelming to be targeted for your mental health or psychological inner conversations all of the time. I know some people think that it's, really healing to kind of purge some of that out, especially if they've been ruminating on stuff for a long time. But if a person has not been ruminating on anything, if they're like, well, that happened, I moved on, then trying to discuss it is just dredging something up out of who knows where. It could end up creating a problem. So the gentle parenting approach was really heavily focused on feelings. And this was probably the first part of the approach. Technically, afterward, the parent was supposed to do some sort of instructing and teaching later that would help the child know what to do to solve their problems. But usually what happened was it became very permissive, very modern progressive, where the parent was just like, what do you think you should do? And how about you tell me how you want to handle this in the future? That type of thing. And so the child was very much the driver in these conversations. The parents were really thrown off by all of these emotional conversations. In fact, they were really trying to help their child find peace, understanding, when in reality, they were allowing the child to now manipulate so that the child would not have to take any personal responsibility. So the result of this was increased impulsivity in children, also increased anxiety, increased manipulation, lack of problem solving, lack of role identification in the family. So the parents and the children not being able to articulate and live by what the roles really were, seeing themselves on exactly the same level, which makes the child technically abandoned. That's what happens in a permissive, modern progressive style of parenting. And that's how the gentle parenting approach was instituted. That's how it was implemented in people's lives. And it was talked about as being this gold standard. Now, there were some things that were discussed, such as calmness, which I'm a big advocate for. People need to understand calmness. I'm not sure that it was fully understood, actually. I think the idea was desired and there were a few things shared, but I don't think that people really understood what was going on in their brain when they had a chemical calm versus a chosen calm, and how to get themselves there and help their children get there when they're going completely out of control. That's something I've had a lot of experience with because I've actually worked with so many families over the years, but also I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. They were all neurodiverse. They had a lot of impulsivity and anxiety issues. We had to help them with their calmness a lot, and we had to discuss, okay, well, what's the thought that you're thinking? Well, what should you be thinking instead? And really helping them create a plan for that so that they can improve on the calmness and then get to the place where they can use some of their other skills, like disagreeing appropriately or accepting no answers when things don't go their way and stuff like that, which are other self-government skills. So I'm probably most known for this book, Parenting a House United. I've written 15 books. You can find all of them at my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. But my most recent books, as of the filming of this video, was this book here, The Power of Calm. And I wrote it specifically so that parents and children too, through their parents teaching, could have more help with their calmness, so they could understand how their brain works. They could understand the perfectionism and how it gets in the way, which, by the way, was a major problem with gentle parenting, is like parents feeling like they needed to be more perfect, and if they couldn't be perfect enough, they were going to now give up on the approach altogether. And these books are for children, so I've written other children's books too about the skills of self-government, like how to disagree appropriately and stuff, but these ones specifically, this Calm Crew set, that's what it's titled, the Calm Crew book, Brain Power, Planning Power, and Choosing Power, helps the children learn how their brain works, how to make a calm plan, and how to choose calmness right in the minute when it seems hard. This type of deliberate training makes a huge difference for the children so that they are able to plan for what they are going to do to solve their problems and get themselves to a place of calmness. So that was a little bit of a tangent about calmness, but I really want you to understand that there are things that you can do to be calm, to train the children, and it needs to be more proactive instead of reactive. Because the gentle parenting approach is so reactive, most parents are ditching it because it's just emotionally draining. There is nothing that drains you more than going through this emotional battleground every day. Even if it's like the child's having an emotion and I'm going to help them through the emotion and talk through it, you're having your own emotional things that are happening in your brain. There's different chemicals that are firing. This is incredibly draining. So you're using sometimes emotions in your understanding to try to help their emotions get to a different place. But what if we didn't have to solve our problems with our emotional part of our brain, which is the mid or back brain? What if we could solve our problem with the front brain? That's actually the very best place to solve our brain. And if we know how to do that, which is taught in that book, The Power of Calm, then it's a game changer. Suddenly, if our front brain does the work, we don't have all these different chemicals firing all the time. It just tells us we're okay, and we truly can be calm. It's when all the different chemicals are firing because of all the emotional responses and with all of those impulsive reactions that we have all the time. Those are the things that drain us. So there's other reasons that parents started ditching the approach. Number one, it ruins the roles in the family. It's not concrete enough to actually be measurable. There really is not that much progress that happens. Each moment is its own little thing. Like, oh, we have to get through this one little feeling and behavior, and then we could have another one 5 minutes later. And so there's no like retention for how to solve our problems. There's just a whole bunch of, mental health discussions and feelings, conversations that are happening, and the parents shows they care, but ultimately the child is stuck and the parents are stuck, having a really draining day all of the time. And then what happens when they get older is they're emotionally entitled. So as we've now grown up some of these kids with the gentle parenting approach, maybe their parents started it when they were 5. Well, now they're 15, 16, and They're taking risky behaviors. They're not listening to their parents. They're completely emotionally entitled. They're like, you don't love me because you're not, letting me feel and do whatever I want. You're trying to fix me. You think I'm a problem. There's all of this conjecture in there. They don't know how to have conversations with people that are actually productive, that would take personal responsibility. It's really becoming a problem. And parents are like, okay, I think I made a mistake. I went down that path. It was not useful. I've got to try something else. It's like urgent time. It's crunch time. And I have to honestly say, a lot of those parents are turning to teaching self-government, which is what this channel is all about. It helps you learn self-government over yourself, self-mastery. It also helps your children learn self-government and self-mastery over themselves as well. Sure, there's calmness. We're going to talk about that. That's important. But we're also going to give you the skills that you need, and you need to proactively prepare to solve the problems before the problem comes. Years ago, the BBC asked my family if we would be on a documentary called The World's Strictest Parents. You can see reaction videos for that here on the channel. They brought two troubled teens to our home, and they were like, hey, listen, it's going to be really hard. These kids have these problems, this problem. And I just said, you know what? There's really nothing I haven't seen. There's nothing I can't handle, because I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens for a lot of years. And I said, so, it'll be completely fine. And they're like, yeah, we'll see. And the world did see that there was nothing that me and my husband could not handle, because we had a plan. And so when those two teens that were 17 in that filming came to our home, we just told them, this is how we're going to solve the problems. This is how we're going to handle things. I mean, they tried to push against it for a minute, and everyone saw that. And then they were like, oh, okay, we like this better. And then by the end of the program, they're crying and they're begging not to leave our house. And we'll love them forever. And I think they'll love us forever. It was a really formative experience in their lives, because they learned, oh, I can be calm, but the way to really be calm and be understood is that I need to use my skills. I need to take responsibility for myself. When a thought choice or an emotions choice has actually made it so that I've made my life more difficult, or I've mistreated someone else, I've got to take responsibility for that. They learned how to do it, and suddenly they were set free. And that's what the world saw. So it became the most watched episode that the BBC had ever had. Definitely go and watch it. You can watch the full video the best at my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, under the blog tab. If you look in the video blog, it should be right at the top of that video blog. What should you do instead of gentle parenting? Obviously, I'm going to suggest teaching you and your children self-government. I've seen it work. I've taught it and worked with families and worked with troubled youth and troubled youth facilities and professionals all over the world. Literally every continent, all over the world. Now, since 1999. And the success that I've seen is huge. And so if you want something that you know is successful, that has a track record of successful, that is firm enough but caring enough, and actually gentle enough, although I shy away from using that word, then teaching self-government is probably what you're looking for. It's probably the pieces that you've been missing. Without the skills and the framework, so that you know when to correct and how, and they know too, and they're prepared for accepting those corrections and consequences, then it's always just going to be about what somebody feels next, and then turns into just a manipulation game. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com, look around there. There's a free calm parenting toolkit right now that's on that website. There's a store. There's lots of things that you can look at, hopefully help you learn a little bit more about what it means to govern yourself. I'll see you there.